Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City of Henderson work session for the City Commission, Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. And we have some guests with us today that are going to be on a panel to talk to us about the Henderson leadership, City of Henderson, Henderson County, Juneteenth celebration. So, Reverend Johnson, I'll turn it over to you to start that discussion.
All right, thank you, Mayor and City Commissioners, and Dr. Michelle Chappelle and I, here about a year ago when the city had made the proclamation for the Juneteenth and for the holiday, her and I had gotten together and we were talking about putting together an event. We just happened to bump into City Manager, Mr. Newman, out there at the building, so we talked with him, shared some ideas. He said, we'll put it together, bring it before us, and we'll go from there. In the meantime, after that, we got wind that the HLI committee was also thinking about a Juneteenth event because of their project that they need to work on. So we kind of agreed we didn't need several different events in our tri-state area, so we said we would just kind of assist or whatever. So going back and forth from the table and working on some things, I know with COVID issues and meetings got canceled and various things, they presented their project. I think it was back in January-ish, and I think some of y'all were present. And so we've just kind of been working behind the scenes and working on the gist of Juneteenth, So the HLI committee and Ms. Courtney and Ms. Miyoshi can share with you who's on that team, the HLI team, and kind of what they what they would like to plan for our city and our county. Now, we know time is of essence because we're just about a week away from May.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is. And we're kind of getting a little bit later, but we want to present it to you to see if it's feasible to get this done and get it planned and incorporated by June the 19th. For their event, and I'll say this, and I'll be quiet, June the 19th happens to be on Father's Day.
Oh, my gosh.
And anytime that we talk about Juneteenth, I mention it's Father's Day, Mr. Rodney, because that's my day. We don't mess with Mother's Day, we don't mess Marie, we don't mess with y'all day, second Sunday in May, do we? So now y'all taking our day. So, but anyway, so I'll turn it over to Courtney and Miyoshi, and they can share.
It's also following the Handy Fest.
Yeah, Handy Fest.
The very next day, yep.
The very next day,
Yes. Which we feel like might be in our benefit. We might be able to trick a few people into coming down.
You should go talk to them and tell them to add you to the schedule.
So this is Dr. Michelle Chappelle, this is Ms. Miyoshi Holloway, and Ms. Courtney Ferguson.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Courtney.
Can we also introduce Deborah?
Hey, we got Ms. Deborah Holden is from president of our local NAACP chapter. Ms. Deborah met with us on last week, and she's kind of been on the phone with some various things, various people, and so we kind of, I believe, got a unity now that everything would be done under the auspices of the HLI with us assisting.
Okay.
So first of all, just thank you for your time today. I think that it's really important before we start talking about what we want the celebration to be, kind of why we got here. What was our inspiration behind it, and kind of why do we think it's important for our community? One is I'm an educator, and so everything that I do is like geared towards the kids. And then when Miyoshi and I have been talking, it's always how do we set up our next generation to feel pride in who they are? How do we instill in them the ethics and the work ethic to step out there, to use their voice, to have a platform, to create change in our community? And we felt like this was going to be a really positive experience. We want it to be a celebration. We also want to use it as an opportunity to reach our community and to get them some resources, in having different community organizations, as well as to educate them about the history of Juneteenth, and to just show the community as a whole the beauty and the impact that African Americans have made here in our city. There's not a whole lot of representation when you walk around our city from the Black community, and we just kind of wanted to do something that was very positive and to show, and hopefully an annual thing that eventually our kids will take on and continue to grow here in Henderson. So we started off trying to figure out what our main points were, and we decided that we wanted to educate our kids, we wanted to empower our community, and we wanted to inspire the next generation. And so in doing so, we want to create this celebration that will consist of a lot of different things, and we want to do it down in Central Park here. We've divided it up into 5 main sections. We have a kids area that we're trying to propose that will have inflatables and face painting and possibly like a free ice cream. We have the gazebo, and we're working with the high school to have some high school students as well as some local artists to create some artwork to hang and give them a platform to show their work. There's not a lot of opportunities, especially for the younger artists, to show and showcase their work. So I know for sure we have some paintings. I think we have a sculptor that'll be participating in that. We plan to put those in the gazebo so that, God forbid it rain, but then all of that will be covered. We met with the library yesterday to talk about creating a literacy tent. I work at South Heights, and literacy is a big issue there, and the lack of literacy. So we really wanted to do something to kind of couple literacy as well as to teach about the history of Juneteenth. So we planned to purchase 2 different books, one for like a primary age and then one for intermediate and up, just kind of explaining the history of Juneteenth. They're going to also do a craft in the tent to Juneteenth, and then talk about the programs that the library has that a lot of people don't even know about. So we decided that would be a great opportunity for them to kind of reach the community as well. We are going to do the vendors. I'm letting Miyoshi kind of talk about the main street where we're going to have vendors.
Which will be in front of the, well, thank you for having us here today. So yes, the main street in front of the courthouse, we will have, me and Michelle, we actually went out and calculated our spaces. We will have 25 vendors that will be local vendors, and I've actually worked with Lindsay Lacosco to create a vendor application for food trucks and vendors through JotForm. So we will have 25 vendors, local vendors, where they can sell anything from jewelry, T-shirts, beauty products, 14 food trucks, is that right, Michelle? 14 food trucks. We don't know if we'll have that many, but that's...
4 tents, right?
Yes, but we'll have, the application is open to that many food trucks or vendors. Well, HPD won't be there so much as security, but I spoke with Chief of Police Sean McKinney. We are actually going to give him a platform that day to speak with taking on his new role and to kind of engage him with the community, to talk about what he desires to see. I think that's important. And then there will be several HPD officers to stroll in the area at the park that day, engaging with kids. They will also have a table set up as well. We do have a band coming, which is Soul in the Pocket. We'll have local performances from various people in Henderson. We're using the people that we have here in our own community. And I think this event is so important, not just to celebrate the African American community, but where we come from. So this day, when you talk about all the things that we're doing, the literacy and the education and performances, all of that is a part of who we are as a people. But it's also, when you talk about, like, we're going to have Matthew 25 there, health vendors there, because they didn't have that when our ancestors went through slavery. So I want our community to embrace and take advantage of what we have now and celebrate that as well. this community, and I say that because I've watched and been a part of things in the community. So this event that will take place for Juneteenth, I know what a community is capable of. And that's why we are here presenting to you all, so that we can make this a community event, and that we can all just be on one accord and one page, so that we can all have that great experience.
We felt like it was really important to have it downtown Henderson because we want it to be very clear that this is not a celebration just for people of color, that we want it to be a unity celebration, a celebration of diversity. We're actually in the process of working with the high school to set up a small scholarship where the seniors can write an essay on celebrating the importance of diversity. And the winner of that essay can read it at the Juneteenth celebration and then get their check. Because it is really important to see the beauty in all of the different cultures that we have in our community. And so this will be an opportunity for us to do that. We are asking from the city, and we've also asked from the county for $2,500 to help support us this first year. That'll go towards the purchase of the books and some of the tents and things like that we have to get this thing up and rolling. We really want to make sure that it's a well-planned out and well-supported event. We don't want it to be thrown together. We want it to be something of substance. We want it to be something that people walk away from wanting to come back next year, having learned something. We feel like it could be just as big as any of the other celebrations that we have here in Henderson if we do it the right way. And I think that we have the group, and we have the mentors, and we have the passion and the desire to really put everything that we have into this to really make it something great. At the very end of the celebration, under the suggestion of Ms. Deborah Hoda, we are going to do a candlelight visual to just kind of take time to remember the struggle of how we have gotten as far as we have. I know that, relations and everything are not perfect, and obviously I feel like with any group, there's always room for improvement, there's always room for growth. But we do want to take time to recognize all of the sacrifices that have been made to get us where we are. So we are going to end with a visual and possibly some words from Reverend Johnson, as well as Ryan Nunn, who's another one of our members, and one of the associate pastors at One Life. We also have Keith Cox as a member, as well as Timothy Miller, who's also on our group. So
it's a great group. That's a good group.
Yeah, yes, it's been a really positive experience. I've taken a lot away from it. Just seeing the passion and seeing how many people are so supportive. Field and Main, I'm working with them right now, trying to get some monies together. They've also committed to having a booth. We're with Stability Counseling, and they're going to come down and have a booth. Like, we really want to make it a well-rounded opportunity for people to access community resources, celebrate, learn some things. It's going to be all-encompassing. So it should really be a great time if we can get the money and the volunteers to make it great.
I know that Field and Main has offered to be the keeper of the account, and that's because I believe that Field and Main kind of oversees the auspices of the HLI. So that's how that worked out with them being just the keeper of the account, setting up the account for the HLI for that. Also, this is a nonpartisan event. This is not about political affiliation. This is about a community event as well too. Ms. Deborah Holder, or representative from the NAACP, would speak on the importance of voting, not for any election, just the importance of voting and the struggle that people had to go through. Women as well too, not just people of color, but women as well too, in terms of voting. So they will be speaking on behalf of that. But this is a nonpartisan event. This is not about Democrats, Republicans. Now, we did get information that there were some other entities trying to do a program as well too. I was able to reach out to them and discourage that, and did let them know that they would not be granted a permit from the city or the county, that everything was going to go under the auspices of HLI, This was a nonpartisan event. We're not there to promote any political party. Now, people want to volunteer, they want to put on their T-shirts, volunteer, come and help clean up. We welcome that. We never want to turn down volunteers. Now, we'll never want to turn down people who want to assist, but this is a non-political event, so this is not promoting any candidates. No candidates would be allowed to speak during the event, during election season. This is a community event.
Oh, you remember when we mentioned about signs?
Mhm.
What's your plan on the signage? And what area? Because I'm thinking about putting it all over, up on north end, east end, some signage.
We are trying to get banners. How many we get will depend on how much money we get, as far as that goes. But we do want to get banners to put around the community to just get some, conversations going, to get some community interest. We will have, we're trying really hard to get some of the banners that will go down here on the poles to let everyone know downtown. One of the ones we talked about was on the Fifth Street Bridge as well, and maybe trying to get something, maybe even like a billboard on the Strip, so that we start to get that around. We've talked with some of the local restaurants about creating a dish to get some conversations going, a soulful dish, similar to how Owensboro does like their Burger Fest, and I think Evansville does the tacos and chili. We're gonna do a soul food one where they'll set it up where we can, everybody can go to different restaurants and eat locally, which is always nice, and then vote for their favorite. And we'll also have a little flyer or something to give out in support of Juneteenth to just kind of get that conversation going as well. One thing I did forget to mention was we are going to have a walkway, the walkway that's on the corner of Elm and Washington Street, that entranceway going towards the gazebo. We're going to line that with posters of influential people from our community, like Thelma B. Johnson would be one, and then like a picture of her and what was her contribution. Why does she have a school named after her? Because most people have absolutely no clue. Dr. Brooks has a park. Most people don't even know that he has a park, but we're going to put him on there and explain, you know, his contributions to the civil rights movement. And we're going to look for other people. We have several names right now. We're going to narrow that down. But several people will go, and hopefully we'll be able to add to that list every year so that people see that you don't have to go outside of Henderson to find greatness. Like, there's a lot of great people here, past and present, and we just want an opportunity to showcase that.
Michelle, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I agree with everything, but, we're also working with the library as well. There is a lot of history with, African Americans that contribute here in Henderson that we don't know about. So I'm currently working with the library to get that information to contribute. The logo, hopefully, of Juneteenth, the word Juneteenth, hopefully there are gonna be pictures of people that is from our community inside of the word Juneteenth. Hopefully that will be done here in the next couple of weeks.
I'll tell you that it's very exciting. You folks have really done some planning, and you've done some thinking, and we've got young folks and middle folks. I'm not gonna say veteran folks.
Yeah.
And that just makes it so much better.
Well,
It's like experience. There you go, experience. So it's just very, very uplifting, and your presentation is great, and we really appreciate it. Anyone have any comments or questions?
On your signs, have you got any prices for signs at all?
We do.
Okay.
So I met with Sign Design. We were going to do 8 retractable signs, and I think, quoting from the email, I think it's about maybe $1,600 for 8 of those retractable signs. And we did, because that's the ones you're talking about, the impact.
I think you're talking about more.
Or are you talking about the banners?
The banners, more of the banners.
No, we do not have an update on that
Okay.
number yet.
You said the other signs was 1,600?
That's the retractable
Okay.
signs for the Impact of Life Walk, and we chose retractable so that we could have them every year.
Okay.
And they're easy to store
Yeah.
as well, so we keep them.
Yeah, they're about $200 a piece.
Well, get a banner that you can put on the railing and on deck,
Okay.
outside fence during Handy Fest.
And we have not, this have not presented to the fiscal court
Mhm.
yet. Our goal was try to do a fiscal court that morning, then do city commission. But under recommendation, they say come before the planning. So we don't do, and I know as time gets close, get with city management, local law enforcement, also Mr. Trace Stevens, the parks managers, email me, say whatever I can do to assist. So we'll have a group meeting as time gets close here, probably about mid-May, to kind of start narrowing down everything as well too. So we still need to go before fiscal court. Does the commission see a need for us to come before a 3 o'clock meeting to present again, which and I'll let y'all guys
Well,
make that
you didn't
call.
present any figures here, so you're gonna have to come before us to ask figures for monies.
Well, they did.
Yeah. 25 for us,
$2,500 from the county.
And we're not allowed to make decisions at these meetings.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But so it's 2,500?
Mhm.
Yes.
And we go over that agency funding and stuff at our next meeting, right?
I think so.
We'll treat this special.
Yeah. But I would say, it sounds like you guys have done a lot of work on this.
Yes.
Really appreciate all the planning. It sounds like it's gonna be.
I think fiscal court's gonna be as excited as we are on this.
I might recommend too, if you haven't already, you might consult with multiple, marketing agencies to look at your sign, because you never know, who might want to support what kind of event and offer special deals and stuff. And I don't want to name any specific ones, but, you know, you might consider just reaching out to a few, because you might find somebody who might be more competitive pricing-wise.
Right, and we didn't, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to ask too, so aside from dollars and potential volunteers, have you been getting everything that you need from the city? And is there anything else that we can do for you?
So the city's been really helpful.
Good.
I know that the city has not received our permit application. I'm working with Jen White through Gilda May Insurance. I talked to her Monday. She sent it to underwriting. I'm just waiting on that information to get back, but everything else is ready to go.
I'm kind of biased. I think we have a pretty good management team, so I think we'll take good care of it. Just wanted to make sure, you know.
I was gonna say, see if you can get, heat before they strings with the police.
Yeah.
But, you didn't mention anything about radio. Got any plans for it?
We do have plans to, speak up.
We need you to speak up.
Okay, is it, okay, just free?
Once you get off.
They're not doing any charging for any of that? Are you doing any extra radio announcements?
Right now, we're going to, mostly rely on flyers and then social media to try to get it out, just because we are working on a limited budget. Once we start getting some of the major things taken care of that we have to purchase, if we have the money left over, of course, we'd love to throw that into our marketing, because obviously you gotta get people there. But, we know that, social media can be a really powerful platform, so we plan to really hit that. We just were waiting, to get the green light from the city to say that we were doing this. We didn't wanna overstep and say that, hey, we're having this downtown Henderson, and the city had no clue. So we were waiting for you all to get that information before we really started pounding the pavement. But I think that between, the press release that we plan to do in the next couple of weeks, and then the, soul food thing that we plan to do, which should also get us some press, coupled with social media.
And the flyers are gonna put in all the buildings, I mean, all.
We have several businesses that have already said that we can put flyers in their windows, and then we have several community organizations that are going to participate, that will also help us get the word out. I think that we'll be okay. Obviously, if they're giving us, you know, a deal and we can afford to do that, I would love to add radio and any other television platforms that we can.
And I'm sorry, I should have let off with this, and I apologize. I have met with the African American pastors and Laymen's Alliance, and that consists of, First Baptist Church, downtown New Jerusalem, on Julia Street, Greater North Chapel, where I'm at, Calvary on Martin Luther King, Love Temple Church of God in Christ, 7th Street, have all agreed to make a contribution of, I asked for $250 per church, because, you know, things have been tight. for the churches and stuff, certainly this past year. And I just asked them if they couldn't do that, just do what they could. They're just waiting for me to get back to say how to do the check, how to make the check out. But the churches have been contacting. We'll make a concerted effort to get it all, because we're kind of in that old school. We got to get up during the announcement hour at church and make an announcement about programs coming up. So the African American churches, the ones that which are predominantly the larger churches here in the tri-state area, are aware and on board with it.
And we may be able to help some with contacts on some of the media and things like that. I don't want to volunteer Donna, but Donna is pretty good at all that. She's got all those contacts.
Reach out to my friend Chuck.
All that information, and I think she would be glad to support y'all on that, so. Yeah.
And I want to say too, I'm glad that we were able to come together and get it all together on one event. And like we did talk about, even me and Commissioner Staten, we talked about location, and we come to the consensus that downtown is the best place for it this year.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot about our commission, how we think, how the changes and mentality of what we believe, and we want to let everybody in Henderson know this is what we stand behind. So I think it's going to be a great event. So I'm glad that we're not having 12 events. We have one. So everybody,
One great one.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other final? Any final comments from anyone? And thank you all so much for being here. Thanks for your work on this, and we really appreciate it. All right, Tim. Step forward here.
Aaron, you have to hold his hand.
He told me that he was the muscle and that he would take care of all the heavy lifting.
Will you introduce Aaron?
This is Aaron Calvert, he's the Assistant Gas System Director.
I just started in December, so I haven't got to meet all of you.
Came from Big Rivers for about 4 or 5 years.
6.5.
Well, welcome. Welcome, we're glad you're here.
Yes, sir.
Let
See
me,
you, Deborah.
All right, thank you. I'll call you. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
let me mention right quick, as we, as Buzzy and Robert and our department managers have gotten into these, utilities and how they create their revenue, how they create their profits, and how could those be, judged and set formulas up for the pilot program. I think one of the things that's easy to recognize is every one of our utilities are different, and how they get their product, and how some of them pass through, some of them charge for the product itself, and there's just a lot of differences. So we had started out by thinking we would have one formula that would fit all, and I just don't think that's going to work out from all of the information that the different utilities have given us. But I think that we can have a formula for each organization that will work well. And I think Robert and Buzzy has worked with each one of the utilities to be able to make that happen. So Tim, we appreciate the work that you've done on this and the research you've done on it. And I'll turn it over to you for your presentation, and we'll ask for any questions or discussion.
I'll get started. When we look at a revenue-based pilot for HMG, it's just not a good solution for us, mainly because our revenue is dependent on the first of the month index pricing for natural gas, which changes every month, goes up and down, it's very unpredictable. And if you look at the market right now, it's just as crazy as it's ever been. Prices are up close to $8 right now, looking out for 12 months, so very unpredictable and volatile. Those natural gas costs are passed through directly to the customer with no markup. Pricing has ranged from as low as $1.37 to as high as $6.17 in the last 5 years. And like I said, right now it's even higher. It's been $13 in 2005 and $12 in 2008. Our total revenue is not really a function of the performance of the utility and how we're doing. The higher revenue is just typically driven by the high gas prices at the time. And also our large industrial sales customers have significant effects on our total revenue. For example, International Paper is $3.5 million of our revenue, and Pratt Industries would be $10 million in revenue if we took them on as a sales customer. And that's mostly just the cost of gas that's passed through. So if we look at gross margin, that's just a function of sales volume, how much volume of gas we sold, how many customers we have, and the fixed fees that we're collecting from customers, and also our payments from Peak, that they're paying us as a founding member of Peak. And this chart shows that our gross margin, which is the dark blue line at the bottom, has been steadily increasing, not related to total revenue. So you can see total revenue is the lighter blue line at the top, and our highest total revenues were back in 2006 to 2008, and they were over $30 million. You can see our gross margin was lower during that period than it is currently. See, the line has pretty well steadily been increasing the last 15 years. But even in our lowest revenue, which was during the pandemic of 2020, and that's only because gas prices were really low at that time, our gross margin is still constant. This chart really just kind of shows how revenue is not related to how we're performing. Having a pilot based on revenue really would put us at risk, especially when prices start to go crazy, which you can see the light blue line, prices have spiked back up this fiscal year, and they continue to rise. But that's not going to change what our gross margin is. It's just going to be constant because we're still selling the same amount of gas, we still have a similar amount of customers, still getting a similar amount of money from Peak. So if you look at a pilot proposal based on gross margin, the way we simply calculate that is look at our total gas revenue, subtract the cost of the gas from that, and that's where our gross margin numbers come from. But look at the last 3 years, you can see our gross margins, around $5 million in 2019, around $5 million in 2020, a little bit higher in 2021. And you can see the Peak return money, it can change from year to year, and it greatly affects our gross margin. $300,000 in 2019, $800,000 in 2021. But that can go up and down depending on what projects Peak has on the book. So what we're proposing is a percentage of our gross margin being how we calculate our pilot payment. Bottom line shows kind of what the pilot payments would have been. 2021 would have been right at $900,000. 2022 would be similar. There are many advantages to this proposal. The first, the month index price has no bearing on the pilot payment. It doesn't negatively affect us. If gas price goes to $15 a unit, it doesn't have any effect when you calculate it this way. If we add extra customers or extra volume, the city is always going to see an increase in the pilot payment. For example, if we take on Pratt as a sales customer, pilot payment will increase by $100,000 by adding that customer on, and that's due to the sales that we have with Pratt. Also, when Peak takes on any big deals, which they just closed a big Memphis Light Gas and Water deal, that's going to pay more money to the utility, and in turn, more money is going to go to the city, these pilot payments. Also, we've been working with Hempel to potentially maybe serve their peaking units if they decide to do that. So any type of industrial customer and anything like that is going to just in turn increase the pilot payment. The only negative, which in my opinion, this is how it should be, you know, if we have the most mild winter we've ever had and we have terrible sales, pilot payment's gonna be lower based on the gross margin will be lower. And what we're looking at on residential rate changes, we've kind of looked at other municipal utilities across the board, and we were a little high on fixed fees, and a little high on the residential sales rate. We're proposing a reduction in the fixed fees from, right now it's $12.50 for residential, we're gonna reduce that $1 to $11.50. And we'll also reduce the residential margin rate from $2.60 to $2.40. So that's gonna end up with about $200,000 a year savings to our 8,100 residential customers. The average residential customers would save 3 to 4 months, $3 to $4 per month during the 5 heating months, and $1 to $2 per month during the other months of the year. That comes out, I think, to about $25 a month, $25 a year total savings. On the bottom there just shows our rate ordinance, how it's written, and those changes. Not proposing any changes on the commercial side. I'd like to leave that the same. I think commercial customers are much harder to serve and require much more maintenance to maintain than residential customers. That's the reasoning I'm not proposing any changes on the commercial side. On the industrial rate changes, when looking at other industrials in our region, our rate structure is really too low for large and mega gas users. Our rate structure was really designed for small and medium users. So what we're proposing is to remove the 5th tier. If you're not familiar with it, you'll see on the next page, there's 5 different tiers rate structure for industrials. We also have minimal increases from $80 to $100 for our 40 small industrial customers per month on their meter fees, and I think $210 to $250 a month for our 8 large industrials. It's pretty minimal compared to the total of the bill. So this is just the ordinance itself and showing the changes, 100 to 250, and then taking these 5 tiers, reducing it down to 4 tiers. We're not really changing rates themselves. We are removing the last tier, which was 8.5 cents a unit. We adjust the limit of the tiers appropriately, kind of get where we need it to be. What we're showing here is our biggest 8 industrial customers that we have, and the effects that this change has on those customers. As you can see, it's anywhere between 1% to 2% for total yearly gas bills change. And as you can see, on our biggest customer currently, we sell them $3.6 million in gas a year. Our total margin on that amount of money is $177,000. What we make on that $3.6 million in sales, $177,000. So with these changes, you can see an additional yearly margin changes, and that comes out to about $137,000. An additional yearly margin with these changes. And also, our new industrial customer that we plan on serving in 2024, you can see their yearly gas bill was close to $10 million. Our current ordinance, we would only be making $300,000 on that $10 million sale. That's just really not sufficient to get back the investments that we're putting in to serve that customer. So with this change, it creates a little more money, bumps it up to closer to $440,000 a year in margin on $10 million in savings. Last thing is our local transportation service option. We haven't had a customer be a local transporter in 15 years. It's just not something that our industrial customers need because we're able to serve them through peak better than they can get through another energy company. That's just why they've always stayed with us as a sales customer. And currently, there's no limit in this. It didn't say you must be an industrial customer. It didn't say anything like that. You know, so technically, somebody could be a residential customer and ask us about being a transport customer, which is really not appropriate. So I was looking to add this meeting or exceeding 500,000 MCF requirement to be a local transport customer. So basically, our 3 or 4 biggest industrials can still have that option to buy gas from a third party if they want. But I just put that limit in there to keep it from trying to overutilize that, and it's really not needed. Like I said, we haven't had one in 15 years. It seems that very few people ask about it. That's all I have.
Mention something right quick on Peak. Peak is a Public Energy Association of Kentucky, and we are a part owner of Peak along with Carrollton Utilities. And Carrollton has a very large commercial and industrial load, and we have a relatively large home load. And so we get two advantages from Peak. One is our customers get a discount on the gas price. And secondly, in the last 2 years, we have changed our policy with Peak and created a new design where we get a 25% cut of the profits. And the profits at Peak has more than doubled over the last 2 years. So you saw that on that one slide that 2 years ago it was $365,000, and last year it was $800, almost $900,000, or $828,000, and it continues to go up. And Memphis is the new Peak customer, which is a large load, and so we expect that 828 to go up in the years ahead.
Yeah, I think in the next year or two, it's going to come down a little because a couple of the big projects have dropped off. But once Memphis and stuff gets ramped back up, then it'll come back up.
And so it's a very good advantage of us. And right now, Tim and Buzzy have decided to use a lot of that Peak funding to put in the new electronic meters, so we don't have an expense. With the additional money coming in, we don't have that extra expense coming out of operations. We have the new money coming in, new and unexpected money coming in to support that. And so that'll be, coming in every year like that. So I think that's a very positive thing. But we get two benefits. One is our customers get a discount on the gas, and secondly, the city gets a share of the profitability of Peak. So.
And just having the employees at Peak, their 20 or 30 years of industry experience is really helpful. It's been helpful to me.
Tim is working on more hedging now, and those folks at Peak have hedging experience, and so that gives him an opportunity to work with them, and that's another good thing. So we're very fortunate to have Peak, although it's had its ups and downs over the last 15 years. It's never cost us any money. It's always had that discount, but now it's doing considerably better. So a lot of good opportunities there. Any questions for Tim on any of his?
Do you mind to go back to that line graph that you had up there that showed the gross margin, sales on that?
Yes.
So is that bottom line gross margin?
Yes.
So what, I can't see the numbers on the left, but how tight of a range does that stay in over the last several years there? Is that pretty consistent?
that line's $5 million right there, so if you look back here, gross margin, 2019, right, close to $5 million, 2020, a little over $5 million, 2021, 5.5.
Right, but we're not expecting that to go up 10% a year, right?
No.
So if you go back to that line, what we would be doing if we use gross margin is basically locking us into a very consistent pilot payment that doesn't go up or down very often.
Right.
Right? Can you explain how the $10 million would lead to an extra $100,000 of gross margin?
Well,
Or you showed 437,000, and then our cut in the pilot payment would be 100,000. Is that are you proposing like a 20% of gross margin rate, or what was the rate you were proposing?
these numbers here, right at
16%.
this calculation.
So if we do 16% of 430, that's going to put us more about 65,000. So where did the $100,000 a year estimate come from?
If we
Pratt?
take on Pratt as a sales customer,
Yeah.
we can make money off of those sales volumes through peak,
Okay.
as well as our ordinance turn.
Okay.
So, but it's really questionable right now if we'll be able to get Pratt as a sales customer or not. All their other facilities, they're transport customers with those
Right.
facilities, and that's really what they're familiar with, so. But if we were able to make that work, that money from peak is where the increase would come in.
And then back to the line graph there, do you expect gas rates to approach where they were back in the early 2000s anytime soon? Are we heading that way, or where do you think we're gonna end up? You said the 12 month is looking about $8.
Yeah, right now, it's just been unprecedented. The prices have stayed up all through the summer.
Uh-huh.
And right now, if you look on the website that we use for pricing, it's right between $7.50 and $8 per month for that first of the month index, higher than any prices we saw through this last winter. Luckily, we're not selling a lot of gas to residential or commercial customers in the summer, so it's not going to affect them much, but get back into the winter months, yeah, they're saying that it's the war and it's what's driving the volatility, but right now, it's just unpredictable. It moves like 50 cents a day, typically up here lately, and yeah, we're already at $8 or so now for the next 12 months, and that includes this coming.
So we were at pretty much all-time highs back in the early 2000s, right?
Yes.
I was just trying to understand, whenever you said it puts more risk if we use operating revenues, because if we did 5% of operating revenues when we were at our all-time high, that is very close to the pilot payment that you're at now. And so it would certainly oscillate more if we used operating revenues and not stayed consistent. But as far as a top-out exposure, I don't see where we're really have a whole lot of risk using operating revenues, because even at all-time highs, we were pretty close to where you're at now, or we're at now pilot payment-wise.
There was no consistency, though.
Right.
If you do it that way, probably down. But right here, it would have been 1.5 million.
Right, which we're at 1.4 now, right?
Right. Here, it would have been low. 2020, during the pandemic, it would have been low, but now we're going up. And I think the main concern is that it's not something that's consistent, controllable, and can't budget for it or plan for it when we have no idea or control what gas prices are doing. It's kind of like the stock market. It's just traded daily, and it just goes wild, and like it is now. I mean, the heat guys, if you ask them about it, and they're the professionals, they just say they've never seen anything like it in 30 years with what prices are doing. So that's the concern on. And the other problem is, you look at Pratt as a sales customer. If you're selling them $10 million in gas, you have a 5% of revenue pilot, then you're asking for 500,000 of that.
When your margins are only 437.
We didn't even make that much off $10 million.
That's a good point.
So
That's a good point.
it's not sustainable.
think
You talked
that,
about a transport customer, you're talking about somebody who's actually like trucking gas into the facility?
No, the gas still flows through our pipes and through our meter, but physically, they don't pay the city for the gas. They would pay it to a third-party provider, such as Direct Energy or somebody else. So we still would charge them our margin rate for moving the volume through the meter, but we wouldn't be purchasing that gas and passing it through our bill. Some other entity would be purchasing the gas and billing them directly for the gas.
Gotcha. So I guess in the last 15 years, been very competitive on our price with these adjustments. Will we remain very competitive there?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, and like I said, whether they're a sales customer or a transport customer, the margin's the same, so we collect that margin either way. But if we lose industrials as sales customers, then we lose the opportunity to pass on discounts through peak and to make money through peak. So that's the advantage to having the big industrials as sales customers, is to have those big volumes of gas that we buy. Peak does their magic, makes money off that, so.
Why does the transport exist?
I know, I don't really have a good answer to that. I mean, we don't seem to utilize it here, but we have peak in place to help customers. You know, a lot of municipalities probably don't have something like peak in place, don't have the ability to purchase gas,
That's
those big volumes.
I guess theoretically, for a frac, you could go make a deal with a gas company somewhere and get a better rate than what we provide.
And they can get other services through these third parties, maybe that we aren't comfortable providing, like hedging. They're asking us about hedging crazy volumes, which is more gas than we use on our total system, for long periods of time out. Not something that we can do, so there is reasons like that
we offer what, 3 years?
18 months. Typically, we'll hedge out 18 months for our industrials. They want to hedge out like 7 years out. It puts too much puts too much risk on us as a small utility.
I think what you put together looks like it makes a lot of sense. I've been honestly impressed with you specifically since our first conversation many months ago. You're very knowledgeable, and we're lucky to have you in the place that you're at.
I've had to pick up a lot on the sales and the rate side since I've started, because I was mostly in engineering operations. Had some help from Peak and other people to get up to. Appreciate it. But yeah, it still gets to the point of having a fixed number to calculate from. You know, even if it's not fixed revenue, you're still looking at fixed percentage of certain number. We'll adjust up and down based on how we are performing in the utility.
I think too, that blue line is gonna continue to have a slight uptick in it.
Yeah, it should slowly continue.
And is gonna be steady and upward. And the other could be it could really be a big variance in year to year. On the other, you can just see it right there, how much variance it could be between
Between the top here and where we were in 2020.
Yeah.
Where did it end up there on the last, where did it take out? Was that over 20 million? On top line all the way to the right, is that over 20 million?
This one, yeah. That's what we're projecting for this year, which I haven't seen the final numbers on sales and stuff, so I couldn't finish this line here.
So we're coming off of a 13 to 14 million, and we're going up to about 20 million?
Yeah, and that's because the first of the month indexes that we saw in the $6 range over the winter had that much effect on gas prices.
I think the only request that I would make that we consider is that if we can start, whatever percentage we use the gross margin, if we can start at around 5%, which we're close anyway. You know, 900,000 is 5% of 18 million, so we're close to 20 anyway. But if we can start at around 5%, of what operating revenues would have been, then I think that'll put us in line with where we're starting out with the other utilities, even though we're tying it to a different number. Other than that, I think what you've said makes a whole lot of sense for us, and it accomplishes what we're wanting to accomplish. Using some kind of formula to calculate this instead of a fixed dollar amount, so that hopefully in the future, future governing bodies won't come back and ask you to change it any, because we've got it established and we know what we're doing.
And it's gonna take some pressure off of us, having the $1.4 million pilot that we've had for some years,
Sure.
More than the other utilities. We'll be able to do some pipe replacements and buy some equipment, things like that.
Robert, you have something you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, Tim, if you go back to that line chart, consider what inflation's done since 2006. You know, his margin has been rather steady. We're talking about all the meters, what they're costing today. So,
Our prices are going up in every aspect.
right, you know, just wage inflation, what he's been very constant is what he's been given to pay his bills, other than heat bill, been rather consistent. In the years that it peaked, 2006 and 2008, the gas fund lost money those years because of payment of the tax. So, what little margin he was getting, he was paying it back to the city. And then
This year, 2007, 2008, we were down around $3 million, and like $2 million of that was payments to the city.
right, he actually lost, after his payment to the city, he lost $800,000 in 2007. He lost $1.1 million in 2008 because of the city's request of the. Just wanted to point that out, that,
Yeah.
you know, even, and I know Tim's knew that even Owen was able to make it work.
Yeah.
He didn't like it. I'm sure he's talked to all of you. He didn't like the payment list tax. Because it handcuffed him.
And that's, I think that's why this makes really good sense. I think you all done a really good job.
Yeah.
And you know, Robert, I've been pushing for a long time to make sure that we got some kind of formula how we calculate our pilot plan and get our pilot money. And I knew it was taking its toll on the gas department because they were giving much more of their percentage of revenue compared to Hempel. And I hate it.
Well, if you think back to 2017, there's 4 of us on this commission that made it even harder on the gas department, because when we did our salary comparisons, the gas department was one of those departments that was judged to be pretty under where the average pay was, and we had some pretty hefty raises back then, and so that's gonna eat into your margins a little bit more too, so.
And actually, water was at a much lower rate as compared to all of their calculations than electricity.
Oh, yeah.
They were way down, and they will be corrected this year as well.
Well, one thing I want to say thank you to both Tim and Robert. Robert has taken a lot more role in helping with the finances of the gas department in working with Peak. Robert's been active in our monthly meetings and getting a handle on that. Peak is a mode of operation that none of us hardly understand, but, you know, we know enough to talk about it, but to deeply understand it is an understatement. So the other thing is, Tim, in your proposal on the reduction of pilot, you are sharing that savings with your residential customers, and I think that's important for y'all to know.
Yeah, because when we package this all together at the end, I think what we'll end up seeing is an increase in a slight increase in water, a slight increase in electric, and a slight decrease in gas.
Yep.
And then also, some other things that we're looking at that benefit the people from a monetary standpoint as well, and so it all fits together in the puzzle.
And I think we look 2 years out and we see more room for reduction.
Well, getting Pratt online will be very important to this whole scenario.
We're just waiting on pipe.
It'll be extremely important to water, even more important to water than gas. And by the way, our electric utility has been set up down in the payment, area all week long, giving out, those, electric saving packets to our customers and talking to our customers about how they can save on their electric bill. And they were down there all week, and we had a bunch of walk-in customers, visiting with the representatives from Hempel down there. Our utilities are doing really well, and our customers are doing unbelievable with our utilities, all three of them.
I don't know if we market that enough to our surrounding communities, because we do. It is, you are financially more better off if you live in Henderson than if you do some of our surrounding communities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Owensboro included, and Madisonville and Hopkinsville, and all the way down through. All right, any other questions for Tim?
Thank you for all the hard work.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim, nice job, appreciate it. Robert, did you have something else you wanted to, you were going to say?
Well, as Tim was doing it, do you guys understand the $2.60, the $2.40, what he's proposing, the $2.40, that's per MCF, right? 1,000. So that's what he makes for every 1,000 cubic feet. That customer will pay the city the $2.40.
And that's to keep up the infrastructure and the pipes and the meters and,
Pay the employees.
pay employees and have good equipment that, you know, and that's one other thing about our utilities too. I wanted to say it every time I get the opportunity to say it. They are interested in the cost to our customers, but they're equally interested in the service to our customers. Because service is just as, if you get a power outage, or you get a water outage, or you get a boil of water, that's just as important to customers as the price, and sometimes more important.
Yeah,
So-
we typically respond to gas emergency in like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Or if you have Atlas in the county, they're telling you an hour.
Yeah. Well, it's just like in electric, you know, Kenergy sometimes is 2 days, and in town they're 2 hours. So we're very fortunate, just so fortunate with all three of our utilities, and our citizens are extremely fortunate to have municipal utilities. You just have to look across the river to see the difference.
I just want to thank this commission for staying together and preventing Big Rivers from taking control of our electrical company. Looking now at Evansville, just because they changed the name, it didn't change anything. Matter of fact, the prices went up on the people of Evansville and Veteran. I don't know, I go down, what is that, right in front of Tropicana, what's that street in Evansville? Yeah, Riverside. And people out there protesting, there's signs out there, it's a mess. And I can just see, from Big Rivers, what it destroyed the people. We didn't let that go. So I just want to thank you guys for preventing that.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Is that a,
We got a
executive session?
executive
Oh, never mind.
Second.
Yeah, yeah.
All in favor, aye?